property taxes, and Prop 19. Even if your child lives in your home after you pass away, if you own your house for a long time, protections are gutted. There are minimal protections from massive increases in property taxes. It used to be that you could pass your primary residence to your kids, and it didn't matter if they lived there or not, didn't matter how much your house was worth, property taxes didn't go up at all, as long as it was your primary residence. And Prop 19 gutted that. And if you have any other property, if you're lucky enough to own a rental or a vacation cabin or whatever, zero protections from reassessment for those when it goes to your kids. So in many cases, this forces a sale, which, by the way, was why this law passed, because the Realtors Association put, I think, $35 million into the campaign to pass this, because they knew there'd be a lot more sales of real estate when people see their new tax bills. Your primary residence, there's a simple test now. When you pass away, if you leave your primary residence to your kids, if they live in it and they move in within a year of your passing, the first $1 million in fair market value is protected from a reassessment. The in fair market value beyond the assessed value is protected. And that's only if your kids live there. If they do not live in the house, there are no protections from a property tax reassessment. So that the property taxes would be fully reassessed at whatever the house is worth when you pass away, even if that's 30 times higher than the current property tax base. All other property, business property, vacation property, rental property, full reassessment. We have tools that can prevent this. We got a call from a woman, her name was Sarah, and Sarah had just inherited a house from her father. It was a house her father had built. It was in Mountain View. Literally built most of it with his own hands, and bought the land decades ago and built most of the house. He had some additional help. But the bottom line is the house, just the land alone, was worth over $3 million. But the property tax base, because Prop 13 kept it low, was under $200,000, maybe it was $300,000. Prop 13 limits increases in annual property taxes to 2%. So if you own a property for decades and decades, the assessed value, the one used for property tax purposes, is obviously much, much lower than the fair market value. So Sarah inherited the house from her father. He passed away. That was really the bulk of what he was able to leave her. She wanted to live in the house. And she thought that kids were protected from property tax increases. She was rudely surprised when she got a supplemental tax bill that said that she owed another $25,000 in taxes that year for the first year of property taxes. Why? Because only the first $1 million in fair market value is protected beyond the assessed value. So in her case, let's say the assessed value is $300,000. Okay, she lives there. The protection is $1 million beyond that. So the first $1.3 million of the house's fair market value was protected from a reassessment, but the house is worth over $3 million. So the county said, okay, we're going to give you that $1 million in protection. By the way, the house is worth another $2 million beyond that. Hey, that's $24,000 every year in perpetuity. We talked to her. It was too late to do anything. Once they go up, you cannot get them to come back down. You got to plan ahead for this. This is basically the example I just gave. $3.3 million home with a $300,000 assessed value. What happens to property taxes if a family plans and keeps the taxes low versus if they don't plan, as in Sarah's case? Let's say that the home's value is $3.3 million and a child lives there. So they should get that some of that protection. What happens to property taxes? They go up from $3,300 a year to over $25,000 a year. That's the child's living in the house. So over 10 years, that's $240,000 in extra property taxes. In 30 years, that's almost $900,000 in property taxes. She would have to earn about an extra $1.2 million to pay the extra property taxes. If they worked with us, we could have protected it. Let me give the same example, a $3.3 million home, $300,000 assessed value for dad. He leaves it to his daughter, but she decides not to live there. She wants to keep it as a rental. The numbers are even worse. The property taxes go from $3,300 a year to over $36,000 a year. And over time, almost $1.35 million in extra property taxes. But we can prevent it if we act ahead of time. For rentals, there are zero protections. You don't even get that first $1 million in protections that you do for a home. Let's say you want to leave a rental to support your child with special needs, or support your child who just has issues earning money, or to let them stay in the area after you're gone. Zero protections unless you plan ahead. We do have solutions for this. We can protect rental properties from having a reassessment when you pass away. We can keep it low. But if you don't plan ahead, taxes can spike. And again, let's say it's a $2 million, fourplex that you've had in the family for a long time. The assessed value is $200,000. If you don't plan ahead, property taxes when you pass away, or when you leave it to your kids or give it to your kids, would go up to about $20,000, $22,000 a year. Over time, that's $800,000 over 30 years in extra taxes. It might not be even worth keeping. And that's why people sell.
So remember, you only have one residence. If you have a cabin in the mountains that you want to keep, in this context, it's the same analysis as the rental. No exceptions, complete reassessment.
We want to earn more rather than save. Like we're geared. If you find an opportunity to earn an extra $20,000 or $30,000 a year, you're like, oh, great. If I don't have to do much work for that, that's amazing. But if you can save $20,000 or $30,000 a year, it's hard to wrap your head around it. And ironically, saving the $20,000 or $30,000 in taxes is more powerful than earning an extra $20,000 or $30,000 because you have to pay. It's what you don't have to pay. Because again, to pay $20,000 in taxes, you probably have to earn $30,000 because you get hit on income taxes and you don't get to deduct all of your property taxes. So, I want to reframe how we think about this. Saving $20,000 is actually probably worth more than that per year to your family. And if they buy a replacement property, let's say your kids inherit, we talked about that in a stepped up basis, they could sell property from if you planned right for no capital gains taxes. Again, just let's imagine what's possible when all you've worked for is saved for the next generation. And what is our solution? Well, we've developed the Gilfix La Poll Dynasty LLC process. We can keep property taxes low, and we can still, if it makes sense, get that stepped up basis, giving your kids the option of holding on to property with low property taxes or selling without capital gains tax exposure. So a lot of people are taking steps that we don't think are wise. Maybe they're finding ways to transfer properties to their kids, maybe limiting the property tax increase. But if they do that the wrong way, you lose the stepped up basis. So we have to be aware of that. We have to be aware of estate tax issues and a number of other issues. So that's property tax, Prop 19, and our solution for that. So anybody from San Diego to Wairika, if you own properties in California, we can help with this. Share this with others. Easy to contact us. Gilfix.com, 650-493-8070. So it's very easy to find us.